اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره مقداره العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. الحمد لله رب العالمين، أفضل صلاة وتام تسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ورضي الله تعالى عن هذا السادة التابعين وعلماء آمنين وأئمة الأربعين مجتهدين مقلديهم إلا يوم الدين. أما بعد، Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another The Soullutionz podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Imam Muhammad Abdullah Ameen, along with Amir Khalil, Abdullahi, Brother Saleh, Abdul Mujeeb, and Imam Malik Robinson, if he coming on tonight. I'm not sure. But inshallah ta'ala, he does. It's been a minute. Tonight's discussion is a discussion on celebrity watching, or the Muslims watching celebrities, right? This topic is it's kind of it's a kind of diverse topic because you have these celebrities. Celebrities are not role models. Actually, they're some of the foulest individuals in the world, right? But you have some Muslims that are celebrities. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There are some Muslims who are celebrities, rappers, actors, singers, and you have some celebrities that they're popular. The ones who are Muslims are popular too, but they're still not our role models and not our examples. Our example is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's our example, and Khulafa Rashidun after him, the Sahaba after them, the first generation, the generation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. The next generation that follow them, and the generation that follow them. He said these are our role models. You know what I'm saying? These are the people. These are the people who Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has preserved our deen through for the past 1500 years, almost 1500 years. We're in 1445, so we're past a quarter of the 15th century, into the 15th century. So this is our role models. Who we should fashion our behavior after, right? Who gave us the perfect example. Now, it's not to say, this is not a discussion to where we're encouraging people to hate celebrities, but they're not as important to us in this day and time as our own hereafter, as our next life. Because many of us, we're getting closer and closer. We're getting closer and closer to meeting the law. Many of us, we're getting up in age. We're not spring chickens anymore. In our 50s, our 40s, late 40s, our early 40s, our early 50s, our late 50s, our early 60s. We're getting closer and closer to meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the things that we have to be mindful of, this muscle that's in between our jawbone. All right, we got to be mindful of that. All right, a lot of time, so we're talking about looking at celebrities. You know what I'm saying? These are people who are talked about, right? Their lifestyle, Some of their lifestyle is foul. I haven't heard of one celebrity who had a virtuous lifestyle, unless they were Muslim, right? And their life and their Muslim and their lifestyle is filled with giving charity and aiding people and helping people and generating programs to help people, to help the downtrodden. Only so I can count who I know that have been doing that um, in their career by hand, right? I can count them by hand, So and also we also have to look at the fact that some of our imams and da'is and uh, scholars and student scholars are popular as well, and they're looked at as celebrities as well. However, they may not be looked at as celebrities to a lot of us. Me personally, they not that I don't look at them as celebrities, but there's people who are popular as well, brothers and sisters alike, right? And so they have made the sacrifice. They have made the sacrifice to obtain knowledge and to teach it, right? And to teach it, and work with organizations, to help other Muslims who are on the path of sacred knowledge or sacred learning, right? I mean, Allah Ta'ala put them in that position. Allah Ta'ala didn't put them in that position to be selfish. He put them in that position to be able to assist and help others as well. The key thing is that we have to take learning serious, right? Take learning serious, and our learning path to learning begins from childhood, and from when Allah Ta'ala guided us to Islam, right? That's our pathway of learning starts from there. So, say if you've been Muslim 20, 30, 40 years, there are certain levels of learning, there are certain levels of learning that you should be at. Being Muslim 20, 30 years, you should be way past the basics, right? Being way past the basics in learning and knowledge. However, our consistent our consistent practice that we do every day still consists of the basics. It still consists of the basics, the basic faro ayn, the basic principles. We it's still based off of that. Why, why is it based off of that? Because the conditions that the Muslims are in globally, we're not in a position to where we're engaged in other perspectives of Islam outside of our ibadah, right? Even many of us that are merchants and do tijara, that does tijara, right? Many of us that does tijara and that does business, many of us don't even know the halal and the haram and doing in business and doing transactions, but in barter and trade, right? It's an obligation for those who are in business, who are in trade, who are in tijara, to learn the halal and the haram, right? So so the our income, our earnings, that's also associated with our ibadah as well. It also is how it's associated with our ibadah, because Allah Ta'ala give us these means to take care of our family and take care of ourselves, right? Though it's not worship, but it's part of our ibadah, because Allah Ta'ala give us this to make our lives easy, right? To make our lives easy. And so these are the things that are real important. Now, so we're looking at celebrities. Everything, a lot of all of the news that we hear about, the events that's taking place, stuff that's taking place, going on in their lives, is really nothing but gossip. It's really nothing but gossip. Um, talking about their cases, and, their um, situations that they have gotten themselves in for after long periods of time that have caught up with them. All of this stuff is really gossip, because at the end of the day, they're they're going through what they're going through, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take care of their affair, right? It's sad that the whole world knows your business, but But this is what you put. This is what you put out there, right? This is the perspective of yourself that you put out there for the world to see. You're under the spotlight because you're a celebrity, right? The same as brothers who are in positions of being imams of communities, Amir of communities, speakers, teachers, da'is, callers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, callers to Islam. We're out in the forefront, right? We're out in the forefront. Our behavior, our behavior in dealing with people, and our mannerisms in regards to conveying knowledge, we have to make sure that our actions, our behavior coincide and don't contradict what we're teaching, what we're calling to. Because if they contradict what we're calling, if our actions and our behaviors contradict what we're calling to, what we're calling to, we're in the category of being of hypocrisy. We're being hypocrites, or we're liars, right? Or we're liars, because we're calling the people to enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, but we're not forbidding the evil in our own self. We're not calling ourselves to good and forbidding the evil for ourselves. You know what I mean? We're having, we're teaching, but we're foul to our families. You know what I'm saying? We're foul to our families. We're not upright in our behavior. So we're having um, unlawful situations that we know are unlawful, right? So, um, this is how we have to look. We have to look at things like this. I always contemplate as it relates to myself, is that how I look at myself when I look in the mirror. And what I mean by that is that people may say things about me. People may know me a certain way, but no one knows me besides Allah like I know myself, right? Nobody knows me besides Allah like I know myself. So, you know what I'm saying? For me, if I can get past the individual that I see in the mirror, right? If I can get past that, and I can come to truth, come to truth with that, right? Then I'm not gonna fool anyone else. You know what I mean? What am I actually doing this for? Am I doing this to appear to the people as being knowledgeable? Am I doing this to appear to the people that I have some type of status or rank? Am I doing this to appear to the people as uh, as someone who is without fault, or am I doing this solely to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to assist and help others in steering them on the path of sacred knowledge? Am I conveying knowledge to them? Because every time we teach a course, or we teach a text, right? 9 times out of 10, that text that we teaching, we've went over that text and reviewed that text countless times. So each time that we're teaching it to someone who have never learned it before. But what is it doing for ourselves? We're reviewing it again by teaching it to others. And each time we review a text, is something else that we find out that Allah Ta'ala show us that time that He didn't show us before, right? That He didn't show us before. And the thing is that each so as Allah Ta'ala increase us in knowledge and understanding, we supposed to be more humble, even more humble each time, even more humble each time, because we don't we make mistakes. We're not without fault. The only one who is without fault is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? He's the only one without fault. So we had the approach, so the approach that we take, and you look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and many of the companions, they were callers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They were callers to Allah. You have a individual who is a da'i, where he a caller to Islam, but a person who is a caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are a specific individual who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala um, causes them to take the path of being a caller to Allah. So in their upbringing, they're being trained on how to be a caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah ta'ala opens that door for them, because this is what He has decreed for them. This is what He has decreed for them. So you look at the things that I had mentioned in regards to our development and what's more important in regards to our Islam and our spiritual growth, our intellectual growth, our Islamic growth, and compare that to our Islamic growth, and our asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us taqwa, fearful awareness, right? To give this to us, right? Because without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving this ability to us, we won't have fearful awareness. We won't have fear of Allah. We won't have taqwa. And compare that to individuals who who are celebrities, and we don't know what they have did to that state or stature or status that they are at the moment, whether they're millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires. We don't know what they had to do to get there, right? We hear stories about certain people, but they're just stories. There's no evident proof, right? There's no evident proof of how they got there, of how they obtained that, right? You know what I'm saying? Even in the business of show business, in that business, people are being robbed every day. The ones who don't know the business are the ones who are being robbed, the ones who are being used, the ones who are being taken advantage of, right? They're the ones being taken advantage of. Those who don't know that business, You know what I'm saying? So you you want to chime in? Hey, you muted.
Oh yeah, forgive me. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
For some reason, it keep jumping on and off for some reason. And alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. As Imam Muhammad, he made some great points, right? Where you said that we don't know what these celebrities did to get to their status. But in totality, we know that this celebrity world that they're in, this what they call it Hollywood. Hollywood is a known fact that it has shaitanic behavior inside of it, right? Where I'll put up the post, right? Us, about one of the major things now is this Diddy and Cassie thing, right? I didn't put up the major stuff that Cassie herself and Little Rod, one of these guys, said that the behavior of what Cassie was doing herself, right? It was said that Cassie was giving her menstrual blood to Puff Daddy, right? So they can consume it at these parties. So we know these are some sort of shaitanic, what can I say? Shaitanic ceremonies, right? We know these things, right? Oh, look at you! You got to look trying to fix the background, right? So we know Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says in the Quran, right? He says, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattabi'u khuduwatish shaitan." Right? Where Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He says, "O you who believe, do not la tattabi'u khuduwatish shaitan. Do not follow the footsteps of the shaitan." Right? Do not is a command. Right? Is a command to the believers. And then he says, وَمَن يَتَّبِعْ خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَإِنَّهُ يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ. Right? And if you do, and whoever, forgive me, وَمَن يَتَّبِعْ, so whoever follows the footsteps of Shaitan, he himself has indulged, right? In bil fahsha, in this immorality, right? So we think about it, right? This immoral behavior. So we pick up the behaviors of these people. We pick up the behaviors of this because we're indulged in it. When we're indulged in it, we're doing exactly what they are doing, right? And he says, "Wal munkar," and this evil, right? So we indulge in this immorality and this evil stuff. And if we look at it, think about the sexy reds of the world, right? The sexy reds of the world, where she praises zina, she praises it, she glorifies it. And then you have the other female rappers where they glorify getting over somebody, right? Well, using sex for robberies. Yes, I'm gonna say it, using sex for robberies. I'm gonna have sex. I'm gonna get all his bank. Your intentions is to take from this man. So your intentions is to rob this person. And then it goes for us, the men. We listen to the Jeezys of the world, right? The Rick Rosses of the world, right? Now we hear this type of stuff. We pick up the principles of them, right? We pick up the moralities of them, this immoral behavior, right? Where the streets code and ethics go over our Islam, right? And some of the music, this music will put you in a trance. Now you're thinking about all this past stuff you used to do. Now you're ready to go sell a kilo yourself. right? So it's like when we follow them to every step possible. We follow them every step possible. And we pick up their behaviors. When we know, right? We have the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it takes us from dark and bringing us to the light. Because a lot of us was living in this darkness. A lot of us was living in this darkness. Selling drugs, right? I got on the phone with my brother one time, right? My little brother, right? And I think about when I was in Jahiliyyah, right? And my little brother asked me a question. He said, "Yo, bro, you still not sleeping? You still not sleeping?" And it messed me up, right? Because this street stuff, this that we was living, it made me paranoid, right? It made me cautious. It made me not trust people. It made me want to get the up on somebody if I feel as though I'm being played. So, and really all of this also came from, we also thought this lifestyle was cool because other people was living this lifestyle we was living and they glorified it. Right? So when we praise them, we are really saying their lifestyle is better than the lifestyle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we're not saying it subconsciously. We knowingly saying this. Because if we know this deen, right? This deen will keep us on a sirat al-mustaqim. This lifestyle will keep us on a straight path. Right? Will keep us on a straight path. Will guide us to Jannah. Right? Will guide us to Jannah. What would make us dive back into this corrupt lifestyle? Or want to follow these rappers and these actors to a degree where it compromises our religion and it compromises our hereafter. Why do we do it? Right? And we know what comes with it. We know what comes with it. We know. So we have a thing of feeding our nafs to the point where it is extremely glutton for sin. That our nafs is obese due to sins. Obese. So somehow we got to find a way to starve our nafs to the point where we look at this and say, I don't want this lifestyle. One of the major things when I was incarcerated, I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala my dua, was take the love of the dunya out of my heart. Whatever it has to offer, take it out of my heart. And I had boys that was out there winning. I had friends that was out there winning in the lifestyle of what everyone wants to glorify. That was one of my dua. So we got to find a way to starve our nafs so we can look at what this lifestyle that we're trying to implement outside of our religion. Look at it as it's some sort of as it's some nasty gas station toilet. That's how we should look at our nafs in this worldly life, like some nasty, horrible gas station toilet. Do you have anything you want to say, Abu Muhammad? I think Imam Khalil, he got up out of here. I guess they all trying to fix their joints. Yeah, so, we got to keep that in mind, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, right? And the same ayat I was quoting, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, well, وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ وَمَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَبَدًا وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهِ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, and if it was not for the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy, rahmatuhu, right, His mercy, not one of you would have been pure. Mazakah, mazakah. Even but Allah purifies whom He wills. Whom He wills. Right? So we got to keep that in mind. If it wasn't for the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not one of you would have been pure. Right? So look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took us from. He took us from this filthy state and purified us. And showed us the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sent the rahmatul alameen, a mercy to all mankind. And we are followers of him. Right? So we should take heed to that. We should take heed to that we are favored. But we run right back to this corrupt lifestyle. We run right back to this corrupt lifestyle. And we got to find out why we do it. Why do we do it? What makes this lifestyle so important to us? What makes it so important to us? Right? So this should be a constant evaluation of what we need to do. A constant evaluation. Right? And weigh it out. Right? But if we look at what it is, money is our main objective in this world. Our main objective. Right? That we look at the celebrity due to what they supposed to have. Then normally when you find out later on in the future that they didn't have what they showed. They didn't have any of these things that they show. You see, as soon as something happens, you be like, wow, this dude is broke. You find out this person is broke. You find out when they ran down on Diddy had nothing in his name. Nothing was in his name. None of his houses, none of that stuff was in his name. And then a lot of the things that he owned was in his company's name. So the money that they had, you think that this is equity. They just own it through property and stuff. They don't have liquid money. A lot of them don't. It's a lot of IOUs. So we look at the house, we look at this, we look at that, we look at this, and praise them. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amen, Adir. And we praise it. So Imam Khalil, you got something to add?
Oh yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. رضي الله تعالى عنه وسدد التابعين وعلماء امينين وائمه اربع مجتهدين ومقلديهم الى يوم الدين اما بعد. You guys covered a lot, but as I'm listening to y'all, sometimes that's why I like listening to other people. It makes me want to like contribute to the conversation. There was a few things that came to mind. One is that if you look at it as an overall picture, all celebrities played a role in every society. And their job was to distract you. In this time period, their job is not only for distraction, but it's also to influence. And if you look at it, Allah Ta'ala always mentioned them in the Quran when he talked about the previous nations before us. One nation where it stands out, one ummah where it stands out is during the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. During the time of Prophet Musa. They also had the same effect during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where they would use these individuals, these people of influence, to spread rumors and lies, to say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was crazy, to say that he was a sorcerer, he practiced magic, and which also leads me to the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said in a lot of kalam, a lot of speech, is sihr, is magic.
It's magic.
And entertainers, they play a part in that sihr. Now, if you look at the complexity of today's time, where the entire world's eyes are shifted at the West, because the one who is viewing the big screen or even listening to it, or whether they're on the internet or so on and so forth, they deem themselves, they see themselves as inferior, and that person on the screen is superior. So in the time of Fir'aun, or should I say in the time of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, you would have magicians. And Allah mentions this in the Quran. That remember where the Prophet Musa alayhi salam displayed his karama, his miracle, right? And the magician would try to throw back, you know, to do a istiraj and a hallucination or you know, some sort of magic, right? Because what's the difference between the two? The karama is a sign for us to see that that prophet is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And the istiraj is an exposure of that person, you know, like doing an illusion that's lying to you. You know, it's an optics move. It makes it look this way, and it makes you look truthful. So with Musa alayhi salam, Allah Ta'ala gave them certain miracles. All of the prophets had particular miracles. The greatest miracle was the miracle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where you had the Quran. And this is also a sign for us that the more we remain illiterate of our Islam and not practicing it, we will never see and taste that miracle or witness that miracle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We'll never witness it. Sometimes that where the emphasis is on biblical teachings, and oftentimes you find Muslims, because the person you look up to or the person that you mention the most is whom you feel inferior to. And so oftentimes you'll find Muslims say, well, the kuffar this and the kuffar that, right? And we need to be like so-and-so. When you talk about a person, that often you look up to them in some way, right? We mentioned this Friday in the khutbah, the Jummah khutbah, is that one of the signs of the love that you have for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that you mention him often. So they use the media, right? And when I'm saying media, I'm talking about internet, anything that shows you an image, you know, that gives you that optical illusion. It could depict the story. They used to use storytellers. People used to write songs. I forgot his name, the name that they give him in the European folklores, where you read them books and stuff like that. And they had the guy that used to come through and, you know, play the little string instrument and sing. There once was a man who lived in this cave and came out and killed all the dragons. Ding, 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 ding. He's the same thing.
AKA the Pied Piper.
Piper, he was one of them. They had different ones, you know, different ones. Even
the Pied Piper, he was the Pied Piper to mice. on
So they have these individuals. Now, if you look at when you're the viewer, usually the rich, right, won't look up to someone that's less than them. So normally an entertainer with the rich, if you took it back to the old kingdom time, he was nothing more than a jester. He was the guy that'll come in and perform tricks for the king, and they'll give him a bag of gold, throw him a bag of gold. There's nothing different from that in today's time.
A clown, a clown, a joker.
Well, yeah, no, but the old word was the jester.
Yeah,
bring in the jester, and he'll come in and entertain the king and make the people laugh. And whenever you want to have a big event, these things still play part. It just changed. The only thing that changed is maybe the language and the clothing, but it's still the same thing. Concerts is nothing but a big gesture, right? And if you find somebody of notoriety there, usually like if it's the president's birthday or something like that, they invite a host of entertainers to sing and dance and tell jokes for the president. It's really nothing different in today. You can sell a concert, make money off it, like what's the joint they have here in Philly every year? Something Made in America, right? The city is behind that. The mayor's behind that. They invite the entertainers here. All these people come out. They make all these millions, billions of dollars, and then everybody disperse, right? It's the same exact thing. Now, the one who's looking on, the one who's the onlooker, usually they'll either stare at the jester with one or two things. Either they're staring at them with eyes of amazement, or they're staring at them with eyes of contempt. You either love them or you hate them. Now, normally, if they're appealing to a certain crowd of people, this is where they do what we call a genre of music, or whatever their genre of entertainment, right? So normally, with a lot of people, where you take and you put rap music between two ethnic groups, you put it with white American and a black American, rap music means two different things to them, right? Rap music means two different things. You'll always have the analyst or the historian of hip hop, and they'll tell you, yo, this is how we used to entertain ourselves. It used to be about displaying rap skills. We used to dance battles, and so on and so forth. They even having arguments now to this day. Where did hip hop start out first? Was it in the South? Was it in the Caribbean? Or was it in the Bronx? Right? They'll have all of these discussions. So what wasn't planned to happen was that it was supposed to blow up so big. It was supposed to be an entertainment amongst a particular constituency. It wasn't supposed to blow up so big. So now it's been taken and it's blown up. Now, at one point you see, and I'm using rap music purposely, you see that rap music had a positive outcome and a positive effect. People used it in rap, like what's the name? KRS-One. Man, that dude is lyrically gifted. He took and rapped a whole chapter of the Old Testament, made connections with Shem and Ham and everybody else in there, right? Put all the wordplay together, right? Did those type of things. Educated people. People got educated. Matter of fact, a lot of Islamic influence did come through music, but it's never made a real and when I say this, a lot of people are like, no, music made it didn't make a positive impact, because some people were influenced to become Muslim once they became Muslim, but they didn't do anything with the Islam. It didn't excel into that, to that where it could excel to, right? However, it was in the music. It was in the music. And you look and you watch television now more and more, they're starting to expose Islam. Now, the constituency that is pandering to or catering to is normally those Muslims that are from foreign lands and not the domestic Muslims. When I'm saying domestic, I'm talking about the indigenous Muslims in America. Because normally when you have an entertainment show that's dealing with the domestic Muslims, it's usually showing someone that is pseudo NOI and pseudo Muslim, right? They're not really all the way there. They'll have them saying inshallah, wearing kufris, but they're still wearing bow ties and slinging bean pies, right? Then when they make salat, they're saying Allahu Akbar, but their movements is different, contrary to Islam. So they have an imagery there, and they're appealing to your interests, and they're pulling you. So now the watcher, the onlooker, is inferior to the people that's superior on the screen. What happens with that is that influences your thinking, right? It influences your speech, right? And it also dictates your whole outlook. Now that is teaching you culture. The television screen is teaching you culture now, and you'll claim it as your own, or you'll incorporate it in your current day culture, right? Music was utilized for that. It used to be a thing for upliftment, but now utilize it. If you listen to the music, all you got to do type in R&B from 1970s in your catalog, and R&B from today's time. The music is totally different. R&B in the 70s, you'll go through problems, but you'll be ready to make up, break up, crying about the stairway to heaven and everything else, right? Girl, I'm sorry. I even got a job today, right? Today, oh my goodness, it's like something totally different. It's like soft porn, right? All of that stuff is influencing our children. They literally have a song that talks about drugs. They had songs that talks about drugs back in the day. One of my companions told me he learned how to roll weed based on Redman's song, How to Roll a Blunt, right? So this is the effect that it had. So it puts that imagery, and who does it usually affect the most? The young. It molds them because their mind is impressionable, at least until they hit their 20s, right? Their mind is, and this is in a basic psychology book. Their mind is that impressionable, right? So it influences their thinking. So when they hear it, they really believe it. They got songs that were a person he rapped about committing suicide, right? The onlooker and the educators, they'd be like, oh, this is a way of expression. But how many people actually listen to that song that got influenced to off themselves, right? How many people become atheists, based on a song that they heard? So the bottom line is the term that they use for it is trauma bonding, right? You'll find that song, that whatever that song is, you identify with those lyrics, and that become your song. You feel it, like I felt that, right? The stagnation that's coming is that we're constantly advocating, we need to follow the sunnah, we need to be like the prophet, we need to be like the sahaba, we need to follow the way of the salaf, we need to do this and we need to do that, right? We say this, but guess what? Our eyes are the windows to our heart. Our ears are the listening, and what goes in it affects the heart. So we hear you only on Friday, Sunday in this case, and whenever there's other Islamic programs scheduled. But when you walk away from that, you turn on your rap music, you turn on your television, and this is what you see. Most people have a hard time treating their wives with proper respect because of what they watched, right? A lot of women have a hard time. Why is it that black women are defined as being women that cannot be submissive to men? It's because the imagery that's also put out there as well. Because grandma used to tell you to be submissive, right? It'll be taught. Why is it that black men, look and they see around them in other ethnicities like, wow, I'm gonna just get me a woman from over there because they're submissive and our women aren't? Why are these stereotypes becoming identifying markers? Because the television. How many times you met a person that may be an immigrant or not from America, and they approach, especially women, black women, they approach them and say some real vulgar things. Why? Because you got the rapper on the television rapping and dancing, and what he got shaking on his butt while he's rapping? A black woman twerking and shaking, right? Gyrating all over him. And so then they believe that this is what all women are. And then on top of that, this whole imagery, there's a whole image that is projected on the entire black race, period. right? And so then therefore, what happens? People start to treat you and deal with you in that manner because of what's being promoted. But like you seen, not that I even agree with the joint. Only thing the man did was mention this on television, just mention that there was a documentary showing and exposing the world that there were some black Jews, and the media took and twisted it, right, into a whole different, a whole nother realm, a whole nother argument and discussion. So these type of things happen. We think TV is innocent, and when you start talking about these type of topics, most people they'll tune out. They don't want to hear it. Oh, here come the haram police and things of this nature. So you're already stereotyped for even having this type of discussion, right? So these things, they come and they have that influence. So most black people watch black movies, but the black movie is programming your mind, because what is in the majority of black movies? Infidelity, black on black crime, drug abuse, and sexual deviancy. You'll be like, yo, you see that movie? Every black person in the world. There's certain movies that you ain't see. It'd be like, man, we're revoking your black card, right? If I tell everybody like, yo, I didn't watch Friday, which I did see Friday, but most people be like, yo, you ain't see Friday? How you ain't see Friday? How you ain't see Friday? How you ain't see Friday? You see what I'm saying? These type of things. But what is it? Why is it so popular? Why are these things so popular? Drug usage, because they put the image on the screen for you to see. Why is it when you start talking about thobes, people don't want to wear thobes? You start talking about growing beard, they don't grow no beard. When you talk about women wearing face veil, they don't want to wear face veil, and so on and so forth, because they don't see these images living real life. And so it goes against the status quo. And you're more worried about what everybody else is doing. That's why it takes a bold person, a strong individual, to go against the status quo, the everyday, with the everyday people. It takes a bold person to say, hey, I'm at work, I'm about to go in here and go make salat in the break room. It takes a strong person, right? You don't have to worry about other people. People are looking at you. And that's the only thing. And this is what, even during the time the Prophet said something, this is what you had even amongst his people, right? So the whole thing is, the image is to destroy doing the right thing, which is Dajjalic in and of itself, because the Prophet said about the Dajjal, his influence will be felt before he appears, and the Dajjal will make water look like fire and fire look like water, right? Why you think that today, mentally, people are gone mentally. You have men literally thinking they're women and vice versa, right? Literally, you have to mentally check out. You have to mentally tell yourself today that I wasn't born a man. I was actually born a girl, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. They're mentally checking out. So therefore, they're not even thinking. They're almost like like cattle, like an animal. Animals just do. They don't think, right? Unless it's time to hunt or something like that. But they just do. That's why we utilize them as tools. You could put a plow on the back of an ox or a bull, and he'll plow your field for you, right? You could put leashes on dogs and a sled or some wheels, and they'll be your car. Same thing with a horse. So when you get locked in with this whole celebrity life and celebrity ideology, right? And it's a big deal. This is a characteristic, that you're locked in the celebrity world. He'd be like, yo, right? Well, who is it? Who was recently that just took shahada? It was Little John.
Yeah.
Little John took shahada, right? My kids was like, who's that? Some people, it was like, oh man, it's the greatest thing coming to Islam. Little John just took shahada. You don't hear anything about Little John yet? Everybody talking about A. Marie. A. Marie took shahada. Yeah, she nice on the eyes, but yeah. What else?
A. Marie took a shahada?
Yeah, she took shahada. So this is the thing, and and we get hyped and like ecstatic. But meanwhile, our reality is when you walk out that door, you're still walking in the same neighborhood that you've been trying to run away from all your life. You still looking at them same dope fiends, and man, there's new ones that's adding to the crew. So nothing has changed for you, but what they are is an optical illusion. It gives you that that the celebration of yeah, we're making big moves, but there is barely any Black American Islamic institutions. And if there is, our people don't support them. Because you either ain't got the complexion for the connection or you're not entertaining enough. And when you start talking about really sitting down, learning and practicing, a lot of people disappear on you. But if you was giving that fiery speech, that old, that'll sound like that old new Black Methodist Islamic quivering preacher voice and bring everybody together, you'll see everybody flock in large numbers. So this is the thing. That whole celebrity watching, it's like Allah Ta'ala tell you, don't gaze at the dunya, right? It damages the heart. The same way the Prophet ﷺ told the man not to constantly gaze at women, because the gazing at the women, looking at their body parts, they're arrows for the shaitan to steal from your iman. Because the longer you stare at that woman, the weaker you get, and then eventually you go and say something to her, and then there you go, you're going down the wrong road. And I'm not talking about approaching somebody for marriage. So this is how we always end up on the losing end. It's the same thing. A million times you'll watch something on TV, and while you're watching whatever you're watching on your television, that image plays in your mind over and over. That's why even now, if you look at the crimes, if you're a video game player, most of the crimes that's being committed by these young people resembles GTA, Grand Theft Auto. It resembles it. Kid runs in, punches guy in the face, steals his wallet. That's what you do on GTA. You ain't got no money. Steal a car, take it to the chop shop, get it painted. That's what they do on GTA. Do a mission. You get a heist for $100,000, $250,000. Like I watched a video here in Philly. It happened up Old York Road. I forgot that neighborhood up that way. But anyway, so when they show you the video, it was a man, he got shot on the 7,000 block of Old York Road. So they show in the video from the perspective of the driver, right? So there was a car pulled in front of it, cut off. They jumped out with guns, right? And then gunfire exchange. Even the driver was shooting. That where the camera was filming. So for a minute, I watched it at least about 3-4 times. And I'm like, why does it look like this? But it looked like the driver, is the one shooting, but they say he got shot. So come to find out, the whole, when they put the whole story out there, what it was the guy was like an armored car driver. He wasn't an armored car, but he was security. And he just made a pickup. He made a pickup, and it was like $150,000 in the car. Somebody must have gave that car that jumped in front of them the inside information. And so they tried to rob him at the traffic light, but they wasn't really expecting him to be prepared, for a gunfight. And so the guy ended up getting shot, but they ended up taking him to the hospital too. And that's where you got the entire story, that it was $150,000 that they were trying to steal from him, right? But these are the type of side missions you do on Grand Theft Auto. So all of these things are happening the way they're happening. A lot of these gang shootings are happening. Well, how are they happening that way? They're happening with the, everybody coming, 900 shell casings, 99 shell casings found, from different automatic weapons and so on and so forth. Call of Duty, right? So, it can be traced back. Now, but one thing we got to keep in mind, you may have a lot of people that's not into that, but they're not off the hook either, because they just watch just as much TV as everyone else. Their vices may be women, men, call girls, getting high, partying, and so on and so forth, right? And these things influence. They try to live that lifestyle. When you get a certain amount of money, like everybody, what was the what's this term I'm about to put in the chat? If anybody can decipher this term right here. Hold on. I'm gonna put it in the chat, and I'm gonna put it up there. And if you know what it is, you can break this acronym down.
Dang, strong fingers.
Anybody can break this acronym down for us? Hold on. Give you another 10 seconds. Y'all heard this term? Tell me where you heard it at.
Then you didn't give him a chance to answer it.
I did. I'm just impatient. High value man, right? And every man believes that they're a high value man, right? But they started qualifying what a high value man is. Then they started eliminating a lot of people who felt that they were a high value man. Kevin Samuels, exactly. What was the qualification of being a high value man?
Must be over 6 foot and over. Make 6 figures and over.
Right.
Right? So he has to be 6 foot and over, make 6 figures and over.
No, he himself never put height to it.
But you know, but that's the thing now.
It was a money thing.
Yeah,
but
it has
what
to.
Was the image that he gave the image he gave men though.
What?
That basically, if you make 6 figures, you got the right. If you got a wife, you got the right to cheat on her. That's the other part. Everybody quoted him, and I'm not saying he had good things, you know, that he added to it. You know, Tasha said he think highly of himself. Well, the man used to be a model, and he was a coach, a life coach for men. And that was a whole nother. That's a whole nother story.
He was an image consultant for men.
He was a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
he was a little bit of everything. But the man made a platform for himself. He took and turned social media into a therapist session, and he got really popular when he started entertaining women and exposing the mindset of women, because that's what he was doing. He was challenging the mindset of women, which a lot of women do think like some of the
them was the ones who was calling in and challenging him.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying though, he made it accessible to him. Because prior to that, walaikum salam prior to that, you didn't hear his show wasn't popping like that. And everybody took and rode that wave. That's why a lot of people now, you know, the red pill, blue pill nation and all that stuff. But the bottom line was he made something and it trended. So then you started having Muslims on there, you know, or Muslims on the same train. You have brothers talking about, yo, I'm a high value brother, you know, so on and so forth, right? But nobody ever talks about how he used to ginsu men up. They used to chop men up too. I just show you that on it with a guy called in there, you know, talking about, yeah, I don't understand these women and whoop, whoop, whoop. And he was like, man, you got any money? How much you make? Right, man on there talking about making $13 an hour. He's like, yeah, okay, you know. And so anyway, you know, not to drift off too deep, but he made it trendy, right? He made it trendy and he pushed the narrative of accountability, you know, just like he said. And so then that became the trend. Most of our relationships now has nothing to do with the Sharia no more. It's all based off of what YouTube or social media influences that we listening to. That's what's happening. We threw aside the Sunnah, and this is why most of our families are living hell. They're chaotic, right? You got the simp on one end. There's nothing wrong with catering, you know, to your wife where it belongs to be catered at. But then you go and make a whole lifestyle and hold every man to that standard.
That's not simping, right? Though.
No. The gist of simping is basically you like a yes man for your wife. You know what I'm saying? That's the gist of it. Because some things like the dude, wasn't it Yada? Some stuff he say, okay, if you got it, you can floss it. Go ahead, you bossing it. But you're making that the standard. Most dudes ain't even seeing 50,000 in a year. And you talking about giving your wife 50,000 for no reason.
But he made that a standard. Let's be realistic.
But it's all fantasy.
He made that a standard due to his lifestyle, how he was treating her at one point.
And that's how most people do. The person you're watching, in your eyes, optically, he is superior to you. And you start taking on their mentality. If you ain't feeling them, you don't listen to him. You be like, man, I ain't listening to this dude. He ain't got nothing to say. Some people just listen just to, like, oh, was it Howard Stern said that? Some people just listen because they hate me. They just want to hear what I got to say. Right? And so this is what's happening. This is what's influencing. How many Muslims if you counsel Muslims, their relationship has nothing to do with Allah and his messenger. The last thing Islamic in their relationship was probably the nikah itself. We argue about everything connected to Islam. We make a fight with everything. Niqab, no niqab. Dowry, no dowry. High dowry, low dowry, no dowry. We make a fight of everything, and people end up not doing anything. And they put things out there so much, you pick and choose what you want to follow from Islam. This is not Sharia. Like we was just talking last week. Right. You'll never stop fornication and adultery as long as the fornicator don't get his back whipped and the adulterer don't get stoned to death. That's just the reality. Otherwise, you're just going to have a Ferris wheel of nonsense. Dudes, somebody called me, was asking me about because they were having a discussion with a brother talking about a prenuptial agreement before Islam. We don't do those type of things. We've turned the concept of an Islamic contract, marriage contract, into a prenup. Why? Because of what we see and hear on TV. That's why. It ain't got nothing else to do with anything else. That's it. What we see. We're not putting Islam into our system. So that's why most women, when they got issues, they got co-wives, the man, he moves like he's still creeping. And the women treat him just like he's creeping. And when the two women get together, they usually fight like they're on Housewives of Atlanta. Because why? This is what they put into their system. You're only going to put out what you put in. You can't figure out why your child is a menace. Well, check his YouTube. Check his phone. You'll wonder why. Right? So this is where this is coming from. Celebrity watching. It'll stain your heart. That's one of the things I like about the Akhdari of Imam Akhdari, Abdurrahman al-Akhdari. One of the things I like about that text in the beginning, he talks about it. Don't sit with the people. Those people of sinfulness. Don't sit with the people of bid'ah. Most people will be upset, like, yo, you separate Muslim. No, we need to get the hell away from some people. We need to get away. Because some people, all they do is spew nothing but evil and confusion. Most of our women walk around confused now because they're literally a walking page of the DSM book because they're always looking up a new term to define themselves. Why you think we're having the problem we have now? We don't use, that brother, he's doing open fist. No, we don't say that. What do we say? He's a narcissist.
He's a narcissist.
Neurotic. She's a neurotic. You see, I'm an introvert. We don't describe ourselves with mu'min or qanitina or qanitatin, none of them, mu'minina or mu'minat. We're not concerned about that stuff. What we concerned about? Being what they define in the psychological book, because you really feel that that's your real reality. Oh, you want 4 wives? That's a classic one. You want 4 wives? I got a kimono or a wig for everyone. I'm Tasha over here. I'm Shaniqua over here. I'm Aisha, and I could be Khadija too. I'm all for. This stuff got to stop. There's nothing entertaining, humorous, and being crazy. Nothing. But that's what everybody's inclined to. Why? Because that's what your music is telling you. That's what your television is telling you. And this is what you believe in as well about your own selves. This is what people are believing. What do they call it? Self-actualization. You keep thinking of this image of yourself until you become that image.
And we do a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Diagnosis. We diagnose ourselves.
That's
man.
what I'm just saying.
Yeah, we diagnose ourselves. Like you said, man. These terminologies, right? Just think of an introvert, right? That means you ain't good around people. You don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to interact with people. You feel as though being by yourself is the best thing that you can do, right? And if we look at that, who do the shaitan attack? The shaitan attacks the person who's away from the jama'at. So now you want to be by yourself. So this is why you have all these crazy thoughts in your head. This is why you're going off the edge. This is why you start losing your iman, because you by yourself. And the shaitan is attacking you because you're by yourself.
Sheikh, listen. Everybody smokes weed because everybody has anxiety and depression now. I thought Muslims used to make salat and pray and wait and rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we done made dependency. We put more of our dependency and our tawakkul in a drug and a substance to alter your mind, to escape the reality. That's why I say, your brothers who brothers and sisters that struggle with addiction and they're married to a person with an addiction, most of the times it's usually that identifying thing. If it's a sexual thing, you are sleeping with the drugs. You're not sleeping with that individual. You're sleeping with the drugs. The drugs have psyched them out. You're not with them for anything else other than that. It can't be. Because when a person's on them chemicals is imbalanced and they somebody else. But usually you know how the rumor, wait, one point.
Go ahead.
Now most people say, yo, best sex come with crazy women. No, it don't. You're only having sex with that crazy, that mental state at that moment. Once you return back to normal, everything goes back on, everything is dry now. You want her in that crazy moment. People are addicted to something, but they're not looking at the overall goal, and the overall goal is to get to Jannah. We're not looking at it like that no more. We think paradise is what they display on the TV screens. That's paradise. That's why we make all of these jokes and things of that nature, because we've psyched ourselves out mentally on why we deal with nonsense the way we deal with it. We mentally check ourselves out into it and start making excuses. Then you hit the other image. Then you turn into Al Bundy. He ain't never happy, just sitting on the couch watching TV. I don't even want to have sex with my wife no more.
I was just about to say, when you think of that, like when you said, Imam Khalil, just to piggyback off you, and I'm gonna let you go, Abu Muhammad, is that you said when they're having sex with the drug, right? And you think about it, only hypersexual people stay with addicts. Because if you have this self-awareness of yourself and you love yourself and these things don't keep you happy, sex don't validate you, you're going to leave that relationship. So addiction of something, like you said, addiction plays a major part. Hypersexuality is an addiction. You have to have sex no matter whom is with. Who is this? And we just call it, I prefer to say that word, right? than the terminology that we should be using, right?
Yeah.
And they say with a person who does that because they're pleasing them in that fashion.
Yeah, Saleh. The unemployed man is employed. Sex becomes his employee because that's how he gets his money.
That's how you get what I'm saying,
bro. And you ask that be the common thing. I'm not saying this to be funny.
That's why I say he a bad man.
I'm actually sharing this with y'all as being in leadership. And when we sit down and talk about problems, because women and men both come. I done had men break down in that, in that kind of sense. I can't never leave her, man. It's the best sex I've had in my life. He'd be like, yo, are you serious? Right? So I'm not trying to be funny. Right? I may laugh behind it because it's like humorously shocking to me. But the reality is, this is what it's all based on. It's not based on family and things of that nature. It's not based on that. When it's based on it, your family is built on Islam. There's learning going on. You taking your shoes off before you go in the house. You lighting incense. Ain't no smoking in my house. Ain't this, clean up your house, because the jinn live in filth. That's an Islamic environment. So Bakaran, we don't keep the jinn out. No. Most Muslim houses got the music playing, jinn up in that joint. Got the jinn in the closet, the henny. You know what I'm saying? In and out, nothing but chaos. Why is this? Because we are opening the paving the way for shaitan. And then we don't even think about the kids. Kids is just an accident, really, for real, just a result of our good sex. Right? It's not a result of something that you want to produce children so that you can raise them up righteous and they make dua for you, or they can contribute to the ummah as a sadaqah jariyah for you and things of that nature. They ain't even thinking about all of that stuff. Not even thinking about this kind of stuff. This is the reality that we're dealing with. It is the stereotype, because we keep living into the stereotype, because the longer we keep gazing and staring at these shaitanic individuals. I mean, even to the point now, sex is how can I say it? Sex now is just something that you just do, right? But it only becomes a bad thing when you're in the eyes of the public. You can fornicate as you feel like, but you fornicated one too many times. Now you're even having sex with men, and and all these different stuff. And then, yeah, that's bad. But meanwhile, the person who's criticizing it is guilty of the same thing that the other person is. That's the reality. That's the reality we're dealing with. Go ahead, Mama. You had something to say? I kind of like went.
Man, I had a lot to say, man.
Go ahead, beloved.
Had a lot to say. It's really gonna be repeating a lot of stuff that y'all said. Well, I couldn't never get in. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on is that Abdul Mujeeb, he had mentioned that he had mentioned that people's minds, and I'm just paraphrasing, their mind all over the place. One of the ways indications that I get from when I talk to a person that they don't make dhikr is that their mind is steady running. Their mind is steady. A running mind has no discipline. A person who is doing an awrad or a dhikr, that makes dhikr, shaitan, older black men who has no power to whisper to them, because they steady in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keeping their tongue wet with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? They're gonna say that these dhikrs that we do this from the Quran and Hadith, they're powerful, and we have to utilize them. We have to utilize reading the Quran. The house that Surah Al-Baqarah is recited in, that is recited in, a shayateen the jinn can't come in, can't enter that house until after 3 days. If a shayateen the jinn enter a house, and you have the two ayats from Surah Al-Isra on each wall of the house, eventually that jinn is going to leave the house. And one of the things that I've noticed about them two ayats is that any house that I've lived in and I put them ayats up, if an individual that's living in the house has a jinn with him, and that jinn has subdued them, when that jinn leaves, they're gonna leave. They're gonna leave right behind it. Because they already have a connection and a friendship with them, because they have left the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala. You look at the individuals who don't eat eat halal food. You know what I'm saying? Eating the biha halal has a spiritual effect on you. It has a spiritual effect on you. That's why it's insanity to say that to eat the biha halal is not important. It's insanity to say that you don't have to learn to read the Quran in the language in which it was revealed, which is the Arabic language. It's insanity to say that you don't need the Arabic language. You don't need to know the Arabic language to understand what Allah Ta'ala is saying. You do need to know learn the Arabic language to be able to understand what Allah Ta'ala is saying and what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is conveying as well. Because learning Arabic is part of our deen. Most of the Sahaba that came from Mecca and Medina, they were Arab. The Sahaba that came from Rome and came from Persia and came from Abyssinia, all of them learn, learn Arabic. In Iraq, that was Persia. They spoke Farsi and they learned Arabic, right? So it's insanity to say that you don't need Arabic. What you're saying is that you're content with it with being ignorant. You're content with being ignorant, and you're content with being a slave, and you're not a slave to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? So an individual who their mind wanders is just racing. A person who has the depression and anxiety, right? What did Allah Ta'ala say in the Quran? More or less to the effect of the English translation that if you leave if you leave my remembrance, you will have a depressed life. You have a depressed life. So these illnesses are associated with our disobedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. They're closely associated with our disobedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. You know what I'm saying? If not saying that at certain points in our life that we're gonna experience depression or experience anxiety. That's not what I'm saying. But to have to be subjected to it and it subdue you to where that you gotta take medication for it, you gotta smoke weed, you gotta pop pills, you know what I'm saying, for it, then that, you know what I'm saying, there's something wrong with the individual. There's something wrong with the individual. You know what I mean? And you know what I'm saying, the individual they have to surround themselves with those who are trying to stay on the path of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala as well. They can't associate and be around those who committing zina and fornication and robbing and stealing if that's what they used to do, because they're gonna go right back to it. It's what they know is easy. That's what they know. That's what they know. A person who lived a life of fornication and adultery, the only cure for them is to get married and stay married. That's why I don't look at an individual strange when they continuously to get married, man or woman. One, because the individual who's doing that, they're trying to not disobey Allah Ta'ala, right? They're trying not to disobey Allah Ta'ala. If a person that consistently get married, that's frowned upon. You know, a lot of people look at that as something that is frowned upon because they're looking at it from an emotional perspective. They're looking at it from an emotional perspective. Our belief and our practice and our application of the deen is not based off our emotions. We don't worship Allah Ta'ala with our emotions. We don't practice al-Islam with our emotions. There's checks and balances. There's dalil and hujjah. There's proof and evidence. Not our emotions. We may look at something from an emotional perspective, but when we look at the Sharia, and that's the thing, you know, that's it. We have kicked the Sharia out the door and put our emotions and our desires in place of the Sharia. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. Bodies. The term building bodies. That term is not associated with something that is elevated in the Sharia. That's associated with dhalim. You know what I mean? That's associated with wrongdoing, right? You know what I'm saying? Islam is not a religion; it's a way of life. It has religious principles, but it's a way of life. There's a Sharia. There's no separation of church and state in Islam. Islam is political. Islam is spiritual. Islam is economical. Islam is scientific. Islam, all of these things that are engulfed in our way of life. Religion is something that you can do now and do away with. It's not, religion is not something that's once you have a way of life that's a way of life with religious principles, then that means that there's consistency in your practice, your implementation. Whether you look at it as bodies, right? You have the sunnah of Allah and you have the sunnah of shaitan. You have the sunnah of Allah and his messenger, and you have the sunnah of shaitan. Just like this sheikh, he had explained to this brother and his wife, they went and had counseling with this sheikh, and the wife was complaining about her husband taking another wife, and he was a taxi driver. As a matter of fact, he already had 2 wives. He took a 3rd wife. So they went to the sheikh, and the sheikh, the brother, he explained to the sheikh. He said, I deal with the public. I deal with customer service. I'm a taxi driver. So I see women that appeal to me. I'll lower my gaze, but if it's someone that I like, I'm either gonna do one or 2 things. I'm either gonna follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and marry her, or I'm gonna follow the sunnah of shaitan and I'm gonna fornicate and commit adultery. So when he asked the sheikh, what would you do? He said, I'm gonna follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah and his messenger. So then he said, there's nothing else for us to talk about then.
Make marriage a bad thing, huh?
You know what I'm saying? It's like a person can fornicate with 100 men, or fornicate with 100 women, but not thinking of marrying no one. This person is a zani.
Abu Muhammad, what did we talk about? What did we talk about yesterday when we was in the masjid? Right? Forgive me. It made me think about what you and I was talking about. Right? That if a man takes on another wife, is looked at as cheating, and a woman would prefer you to cheat before you make her a wife, due to the wife having rights now. Remember you said that?
Yeah, because it's the truth. It's the truth. A woman would deal with her husband cheating on her more than she would deal with him taking another wife. A woman would deal with her husband going upside her head every day, as long as he's still taking care of her financially. And there are sisters who done went through this.
Right. This is evidential proof. They
done went through this. They've been beat on to their esteem, just been beat up out of them.
But okay, just to answer that, Malika, forgive me. Right. I made a joke of that, right? Like, sometimes we say can afford, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he spends out his means. Right? 1, if he spends out his means, and we don't know what contractual agreement that this man has with this other wife. Right? We don't know. If a man spent out his means, you don't know. Say if he found a wife, right? Say if he found a wife that was making $300,000 a year. Oh, you know what? Not a wife yet, but a woman, right? She makes $300,000 a year. Just say 350,000. Let's say something very extravagant, right? All her children is grown. It's just her, right? It's just her. She says, "I want to marry this brother here. He gives me this much a month." Just say if it's $100 a month, and I want him to teach me the religion, and he fulfills that contract. Is that halal or is that haram? If it's, I would like any of the people who's watching, what I just said, is that halal or is that haram? Right? So now you can't say what a man can't do because he's fulfilling his obligation according to the Quran and the Sunnah. So now we have to stop saying what a man can do and what a man can't do. The problem we are having is, as what Imam Khalil said and Abu Muhammad said, we're lacking worship. We're lacking fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're looking at everything else besides what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Right? We're so focused on other things, right? And then now we bring this belief system inside our religion, and it causes problems. It causes major problems, right? Because why? We didn't come into Islam wholeheartedly. Imam Khalil said one thing. I think he said before that the overgarment is the only thing they're clinging on to. They're clinging on that to the day, for dear life, and that's the only thing they have with Islam. It's just covering. And the only thing a brother have is probably that kufi.
Or that beard.
And he don't eat pork. Right? That's all they have. And that's the problem we having. As Imam Khalil said, is nothing Islam is being pushed to the forefront. Nothing. I remember, what made me cling when I was younger, cling to Islam. I seen the elders before me, such as the Imam Khalils, the bigger, the older brothers, right? They had a thing for learning the religion and practicing it. It was a thing at one point. Now, look what we're doing. My generation, right? Their kids, you can't even tell if the kid is Muslim or not. Look how they dress. Look how they act. Look what they do. They don't even know the Quran, but they can tell you everything about Lil Durk. They can tell you everything about ESTG. They can tell you everything about Mozzie. They can tell you everything about Lil Baby. They can tell you everything about 42 Doug. They can tell you everything about about Future and Drake. They can tell you everything about this. But when we start talking Islam, tell me your personal obligations every day as a Muslim. Tell me your 5 pillars of Islam. Man, they confuse. They confuse. It's not, and again, just answer that. It ain't even that men don't want to teach. A lot of women don't give the men the energy to want to teach because y'all got it figured out already. Right? I teach a women's Arabic class, right? You know me, right? Everybody knows me, right? It's rough teaching y'all. It's rough. But when I was in prison, I taught guys that just came in here. He was on wet. He was popping Xannies and Percocets. He was on dog food. And I was able to sit him down and tell him, brother, read this, do that. And the brother, 2 days later, 3 days later, he had that memorized. I tell some sisters to pick this book up, keep it in your hand for 5 minutes, and the next class, they don't know nothing. But I just taught this Xanny, this Percocet head, how to say this, how to say that. In 2 days, this man was high off like a light bill for the past so months.
I know a brother that he couldn't read. He couldn't read. I think he was probably reading on a 2nd grade, 3rd grade level or something. The minute once Allah Ta'ala blessed him to learn Arabic, once he learned Arabic, and you listen to him reading his English, now he's reading on the 10th, 12th grade level. He didn't finish school. He went back, got his GED. He got his GED. He got his heating, air conditioning, and ventilation certification. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Got a CDL. You mean it just advanced from what Allah Ta'ala giving him the Arabic language.
Listen, they can't say bad. They can't say bad, but they can tell me what the.
He put barakah in his learning.
Listen, they can't say bad, but if they're trying to be nurses and RNs and LPNs, they know all them terminologies. The philanthropist tube goes up the morpholysis, and you have to read the cortisone of the enteromorphistic. You know all of that stuff, but you can't say bad.
Hold on.
Let's see, look, though.
That's hold on. It ain't all sisters, man. I know.
No.
That's probably some of the ones that join your class. I told sisters.
Man, no, don't be innocent because you got some stories too. You got some stories too, Ahmed. You got some stories too. We didn't say all sisters. We didn't say all sisters, but you got some stories too.
I ain't hear y'all talking about that.
Nah, Khalil, you got some stories too.
I ain't teaching. But my sisters I teach come out halfway decent.
No, okay, you told us. You said something.
I'm keeping 100 with you. I ain't had that bad of a
Imam Khalil. I mean, Abu Muhammad. What was that story he told us? What he said about what Sister Saleh? Yo, that's nasty work. I ain't gonna put the name out there. I was like, yo, that's nasty work. I ain't never had that. I ain't never had that.
That's something different. I'm talking about you. Talking about the sisters are hard to teach. I ain't never had that problem. I would have more sisters in a class. Matter of fact.
I haven't.
One time I had a class every week until we almost finished the entire book. Man, it was nothing but sisters there. It was so many sisters that brothers were starting to join the class just because the women was in there. I ain't never had that problem.
No,
women usually be the one that's carrying the kids because the men be running off.
No, but I also said that it was a lot of, it is always a lot of women in the classes. There's always a lot of women in the class. Men are some of the biggest stubborn people too. But when it comes to stuff they don't want to learn, I'm telling you, it's not that men don't want to teach. The teachers want to teach. That's his job. That's like saying LeBron don't want to shoot a 3-point basket. If that's what you like doing, you're going to do what you like doing.
What he do? If you don't feel like shooting, then what he do?
He dunk it, but he playing the game, right?
All right. But I'm just saying, though.
But he playing the game, right? He's still in the game.
All I'm saying is, I saw some of my worst students were men because they're too inconsistent. You only got the men that stay and excel, and then the rest of the dudes fall by the wayside. They say they gotta work, they gotta sleep, they gotta do everything else.
Hey, look, I bet witness to that. I remember when Ustad Ubaidullah Evans and Sheikh Umar Farouk Abdullah, they had a class at the masjid. They was teaching the Ihya Ulumuddin at Masjid al-Fatih. The first class, it was 100 people there. It was like 80. It was like 70 something brothers and about 30 something sisters. The sisters in there, looked like almost like Juma in there on the sister side, because that's about the amount of women that be there for Juma. You mean 30 and 50, right? And they got a small area, but it was like 70 men. Now the class was every Monday for a whole year, right? For a year, and then went into the second year. The first class, it was like 100 people. The next class, about maybe 80 people. The next class, about maybe 65, 70 people. The next class was about 50 people. All the way till, I want to say the sixth class, it was like 30 people, and it was consistent. Them 30 people was consistent for the rest of the time teaching the text, Ihya Ulumuddin. But it was mostly men. It was mostly men. The same thing happened when Sheikh Hamza he was teaching the Risala at Masjid al-Ihsan. First class there, it was like 50 or 60 people. And each week it just dwindled down. But when it dwindled down, it was like maybe 30 people consistent every week. And this class was on a Sunday. And he was teaching Riyadh al-Salihin, going over Riyadh al-Salihin, and he was teaching the Risala. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, brothers don't be on point too. You know what I'm saying? We dwindle away.
And so start off strong, and then don't ask for group participation. That'll be the last class they come to.
Right.
Like, Stick, we need you to read that page right there. What?
Like even with teaching, a lot of times you have brothers who teach that be inconsistent with teaching too. Start a text.
And who is it? The man.
Never get past the introduction. They teach the introduction and don't get into the next time.
Let me stop. I'm gonna stop laughing, man.
You taking shots already, man? Look, don't. That's not.
Oh no, I'm done. I ain't laughing.
Oh man, you gotta stop taking. Already got the pistol out.
I'm done.
You heard it, right?
I ain't said nothing else. I gotta defend the sisters a little bit. You got an interesting crew though, brother.
No, I love my girls, man. They my girls, man. They my girls. But in general, though, right? In general, like no, but you're right. Remember I said that, you know, when I went to the Creed of Imam al-Bayhaqi, it was more women, right? It's always more women. Also due to, you know, they have a little bit more time than, you know, than a man do sometimes, man. But you know, the consistency is a key factor, right? It is a key factor. No, a lot of them too, but a lot of times they do. Okay, a lot of times they do.
I remember fasting Ramadan in Ethiopia, and at the masjid for Tarawih. Now at Masjid Anwar for Salatul Tarawih, you can't. You know what I'm saying? If you're not there for Salatul Maghrib and made iftar there, you're not gonna make the salat in the masjid. You're gonna be in the courtyard and out on the streets. All of the streets is blocked off. But you know who was in the streets praying? Mostly women. Packed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Brothers still they steady trying to get inside the masjid because the sisters out in the streets got the streets sold up, blocking off traffic. It's a sheikh. I forgot his name. You know, he was one of my ex-wife teachers. His class was majority women. I'm like, it was probably like 200, 300 women in his class. So much. So he had to teach the class on the PR system.
We gotta somehow stitch up the laceration we got in the ummah, especially between families, the husband and wife, because he bleeding out, and it ain't getting no better. And a big component in the split is celebrity watching. Celebrity watching playing a big component in it. You know, it's cutting and bleeding out. You know, if you don't stop the bleeding, the person bleed out and then it dies. And what you're seeing is the ummah's on life support because we bleeding out. Nobody took the time out to put in the stitches, put on the tourniquet, stop the blood from flowing. So we got to get back to that. Otherwise, we just dying off. We bleeding out, man. The Muslim family is just disintegrating, and that's just real. So you know, but those are my closing words. What about you, good brothers? Which I got to close out with.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Stay consistent. All right. stay consistent with everything that you're doing, learning, whatever it is that you're doing, practicing. Try to stay consistent and not make excuses. Not make excuses and not blame or blame anyone. Especially blaming someone for something that you can do yourself, or blaming someone for what you're not doing. That's an excuse for you to do that. Let's stop doing this. Let's try to be the message that we bring. Make our word bond to Allah, right? Let's try to stay consistent. I mean, one of the hardest things about implementation is actually changing our demeanor and our character. And we really need to focus on that more. We really need to focus on that more, changing our character transformation, right? Character transformation in order to reach a divine realization. That's my closing words.
Mine is just be sincere, right? Be mindful of who you take as friends and what you follow and what you hold to a high stature, right? And fall back in love with Islam, because it seems like we're falling out of love with Islam, right? That's one of the key factors, man. We're falling out of love with Islam, right? We let everything distract us from the goal and distract us from this beautiful religion. Rather it be heartbreaks, finances, stress, right? We got to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests those he loves, right? And he's going to test you with the things that you hold dear to, right? And he says to give good tidings for those who have patience, right? So we got to be sincere and just, and continuously learn the religion, right? And I was saying, I think I was saying earlier that, that I feel as though we got to get back to the basics, man. We got to get back to the basics. Imam Khalil once said that, we need to Soullutionz, right? I feel as though we need the basics of just practicing, right? Because a deep cleansing is for those who have knowledge of what's the things that they have to fix. And if you don't know what you got to fix, you can't do that deep cleansing. You don't know what products you need to finish cleaning up, what you need to clean up, right? So we need to get back to these basics and hold close to these basics, right? And even sometimes you can't get past that. The basics will get you to Jannah, right? We think about one of the better ones that came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him about the things. If I fast, I pay my zakat, I do this, am I going to go to Jannah? Yeah, you'll go to Jannah. All right, well, that's all I'm going to do then. And if you do that with sincerity, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. You may have you may be safer than me. This knowledge that I have, if I don't implement some of this stuff, I get held accountable for it. We think about one of the people who will be in the hellfire as a scholar, right? Is this corrupt scholar. Why is that? Because he told people to do what he wasn't doing. All right, so we have to have sincerity, man, and just go back to the basics. Go back to the basics, because these are the things that's going to safeguard you, your family, and everyone that's around you that wants to learn. Inshallah ta'ala. So that's all I got to say.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, everyone who's watching, like to thank y'all for staying on, sticking it out with us. Those of y'all who click like and heart and sharing all those things, may Allah Ta'ala reward you. Encourage more people to watch with us, because tell a friend and tell a friend. Don't forget to share, subscribe, like, pass on the information. Inshallah, and I guess we'll be here next week, same bat time, same bat channel, inshallah. 8:30 next Sunday. Mommy, you can close us out with a dua.
Or say after Maghrib, because Maghrib is around the same
time.
Yeah,
after Maghrib, definitely, inshallah. Definitely.
Yeah. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والقاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره مقدار العظيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وأن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولا ملجأ من الله إلا إليه. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Oh, like, subscribe, share. Don't forget.
Nah, Ameen.